Well, it's Tuesday, November 4th. The big day is upon us. Budget day. It's almost been like a year. When's the last time we got a budget? It's been a while. I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Iain Burns, our managing editor out there in the nation's capital, Ottawa. Kind of an overcast, still a beautiful fall day here in the Okanagan. What's it looking like out there in Budget Day, Ottawa?
It's absolutely stunning, stunningly beautiful. So if that's an omen, then
I was going to say shocking.
I don't know what it means.
Shocking, maybe. Shockingly, we'll see. See what is shocking.
Shockingly beautiful.
Yeah. Shocking, stupefying, unsustainable budget. But hey, let's look at those new boots. That's where the government-funded media wants you to look. Check out Champagne's new boots. CBC doing their part as the Liberal Party crier. The Canadian economy in trouble. Macklem says U.S. too important to Canada. That's a duh moment. Ford has different recollection of ad talks. Why can't these people just tell the truth? Auto deal is a secret. Imagine that. National security maybe, or what? Why would it be a secret? That's the good question. Now we're editorializing our own headlines. Liberal policies drive food inflation. Canada's largest copper plant closing. You can't even drive a truck across Canada. Some one economy that is. Kids don't watch TV. Yukon picks a new direction. Eby backtracks, and Eby now realizes he's part of the problem. And your old friend there, the BBC, finds itself in hot water. But all that and a lot more. We got lots of really good stories. It's a big full day. The big news, though, today is the budget. I think that drops at 1 o'clock Pacific time, right? Isn't that what it is? Something like that? We should see.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, Pacific time. Yeah.
There you go. We're all sitting on pins and needles waiting for what the direction of our country looks like. But the Liberals set to deliver that. Hey, look at the headlines here. Liberals set to deliver highly anticipated federal budget. How long has it been since we actually had a budget?
16th of April 2024 was the last one. So that's rather a long time ago. It's so that's what, a year and 7 months? Is that right?
Why would you need one? It just causes people to get excited and, anxious and angry, right? So it's budget. It's it's going to happen today though. They've taken that extraordinary step of delaying the budget by the best part of the year with Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne promising something for every Canadian. Well, he also warned of sacrifices. He didn't make any sacrifices, that he custom-made boots. That's what they want you to focus on, is his boots. We'll get to that later. But, look, and again, the government-funded media. Look, Mark Carney arrives at Parliament there, and listen to the questions that are asked. Listen in. They're actually saying to him, "Big day." Like what?
I couldn't actually hear that. That was muted, but it didn't make any difference because obviously nobody said anything.
Could Donald Trump walk in on a day like that and not get any questions from any reporters?
Could any democratically elected leader anywhere in the world do that and not be shouted at? On my honest, very nothing to hide, no agenda to push, my honest answer is no. Nowhere on this planet could that happen, but apparently Canada.
He casually walks in, just saunters in, and is making small talk with the reporters. Hey, good day, good day. Nothing.
See that Blue Jays game? See the hitter of the balls? We like that.
No challenge. No challenge whatsoever. Like, what is going on? Let us in the room. Like, let us in the room. Like, it's absolutely stupefying, shocking that the government-funded media, basically they're just waiting to start doing the town crying for the Liberal Party. But here they put out an ad today. This is what they're telling you as a Canadian to expect. They're going to build our economy, protect our communities, and empower Canadians. They've had almost 11 years now, 11 years running the country. Do you think the economy's better 11 years later?
I mean, I while you were while I was talking about the budget, the last one from 2024, April 2024, I just clicked on the government's website where they show you where they publish it. Right at the top is the 2024 federal budget is the government's plan to build more houses, help make life cost less, and grow the economy in a way that helps every generation get ahead. It's the same thing. I'm literally going through this budget. It's the same thing. We're going to build infinity homes. Well, there's something here that isn't going to be in this one, which is fairness for younger generations. But then there's economic growth and productivity, including investing $2.4 billion in AI. It's just all the same thing. Debt to GDP ratio is going to come down. We're going to control inflation. They might as well just copy and paste. It's going to be the same thing.
Well, let's just ask, like if you're watching, we're starting to get a really good audience here. So if you're watching, I think we almost had 10,000 watch yesterday, which is great. So starting to grow, and then we'd like you to share and get this out there more, because obviously this is different than the CBC mainstream media. Do you feel that the economy in the last 11 years has been built? Have they built the economy? Do you feel protected in your communities? Do you feel protected? Do you feel empowered?
How about the cost of things? That's another good question.
How are we doing?
Do you think things are getting easier to afford or harder?
And you know who isn't getting any airplay by the Liberals? The parliamentary budget officer, Jason Jacques. Remember when because he's seen the budget. He has seen the budget because he's helped, give direction on the budget. Other than the Liberals, he's the one that has seen the budget. And what did he say? Shocking, stupefying, unsustainable, like we're standing at the edge of a cliff and looking into the abyss. Just so we can remember, let's play the small clip here, just the bit of it here, where Jason Jacques says what he thinks of the budget.
Shocking, right? This is not. It's not a funny fiscal outlook.
That's good. That's good.
The public
very weird thing to say, by the way. Oh. Not funny. Like, why would it be funny? Nobody's laughing, mate.
And then what did they do? Did they, get a bunch of stories, a bunch of economists to talk about that? No, they found people to discredit Jason Jacques. They found a way to
including his predecessors and the IMF.
No mention of him today. Like even some counterpoints. Like if you go to the CBC website, like we typically do, listen to this. The headline: Liberals to put forth big, bold federal budget today, as Carney aims to put his stamp on government. He has his stamp on the government. He's been the economic advisor. This is the kind of budget you will remember. Maybe all too well. Federal budget to chart a course to meet NATO spending.
And also their sources have told them that they're going to scrap the 2 billion trees target. Forget trees. We've got a new kind of carbon capture technology.
I think that's what we're going to hear. I think we're going to hear, I'm going to bet on this, that they're going to scrap the emissions cap and replace it with carbon capture, which gives the ability for private companies to start taxing our energy and profiting from it, and then selling those carbon credits to these companies. And
you can't do that with trees, can you? With trees, it's just gangs of kids going around the bush sticking saplings in the ground, isn't it? It's not very easy to fiddle with that and send billions of dollars here and there.
It's not very complicated either, because you plant a tree in the ground and it just processes the carbon and releases oxygen. Whereas with carbon capture, you got this complicated process where you take this huge monstrosity of HVAC fans, suck the air through it, and then sequester the carbon, and then put it into a tanker truck it into a long distance, drill a deep hole in the ground, and then inject the carbon into the ground, and then sell that credit to somebody. Like, who can tell what's going on where? But hey, now that's a great complicated scheme.
And it can be recycled, reused, passed around, sold, exchanged, bartered. New contracts can be given, tax credits here and there. It's just absolutely beautiful, isn't it? There are certain people who look at that and they have to get a napkin because the drool is just too intense.
Sold 6-7 times. Like, who knows, right?
Oh, there's big money in that.
And then here's CPAC doing the work as well. Canadians asked us to build big, bold things. They expect us to do things. But let's listen in his own words from the often winner of Fool of the Day, Francois-Philippe Champagne.
Budget that you will remember, because that's there will be no surprises. Canadians have asked us to build big, bold things. They expect us to do things differently. So we're going to make generational investments that will build our country. We're moving from reliance to resilience, from uncertainty to prosperity. We're going to do the kind of things that will make this country stronger, and everyone will see themselves in that budget. So that's why I would expect the opposition parties to be supportive, because there is something for every Canadian in that budget. This is a budget that talks to everyday Canadian, the workers that you've seen here, the member of our armed forces, the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the families in Canada. And that's the kind of budget we need to meet the moment. And tomorrow, as Canadians, will meet the moment. This is a unique moment in our nation's history, and we need to meet the moment. We're going to meet it together.
One of the creators of the mess we're in is ready to meet the moment. The Conservatives have reacted with a little, I guess, budget fun, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but they played a little clip here from the Conservatives here.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on
to. There you go. We won't play the whole thing. You can go find it on X, and you can enjoy the rest of it.
It was pretty funny, wasn't it? I liked Champagne there. I also just like, he is just a funny guy, isn't he? He's a real character.
I do.
His little shoes.
I do hope when they bring down the budget that they all do the elbows up dance right there in the House of Commons there. I hope they perform that dance.
But he's just such a, like, he's almost like in the 19th century, he would be the promoter for a magician's show or something like that, wouldn't he? Be like, come on, see the impossible trick. So the rabbit goes in the hat. It's like, he's such a, like, he's so bullish and he's so excited. And that's obviously kind of why he's around, I think, because he like hypes everyone up. And obviously there are people out there
what do they
believe him as well.
Call that guy at the three-ring circus that stands there with the top hat. What's the guy called?
Oh yeah, the
ringleader, isn't it?
I can't. Is it? Yeah. My circus knowledge is not so good, but I know the sort of figure that you mean. Yeah.
The guy that comes out with the top hat and does the tricks. But Robert Fife put a budget to include $50 billion local infrastructure fund. How much of that will actually turn into anything? We've seen the track record of the Liberals of where this money goes into the vapor. But let's play it. This part is the part that just blows me away. We have Canadians staring at the meat counter. I witnessed this myself many times, staring into the meat counter, standing there, and the kids standing there with him and saying, "Daddy, remember when we could afford meat?" That's where Canada's at right now. And he's getting himself a custom pair of shoes, and this has been run on so many outlets too about all his shoes, as opposed to where Canada's economic situation is, and all these messes. In 7 months, nothing. No deal. 7 months, nada, squat. We did that yesterday. Nothing. And here you go. Let's play this clip while he makes a custom pair of shoes, like totally tone deaf. Because we don't need to hear the Western thing there as Francois-Philippe Champagne gets a custom pair of cowboy boots at the Canadian taxpayers' expense. Why not, though, eh? Why not?
It is a tradition, we should say. It's not like he's not just kind of gloating over everyone else's suffering. This is kind of something that they always do. But the fact that they're doing it, they're promoting it like that they didn't have to do that. But if you remember, they also did it with Chrystia Freeland, because this has been going on ages. I
These
don't
are
actually know how
distractions.
long this tradition goes back.
These are
But she got like
distractions.
fancy shoes, fancy heels, and a dress and everything, didn't she? And then put out a video about it,
Yeah.
or at least a picture. Like they promoted it. It's just needless. Like
Doesn't meet
just
the moment.
behave yourselves.
Does not meet the moment. If we want to talk about meeting the moment, and I've interviewed the author of the Economic Long Wave. The interview did really well, economist, and he's put this out here. I should get him back in because it was a good interview. Canada's private debt to GDP, mostly mortgages, is now higher than the U.S. in 2008 and 1929, and higher than Japan's for its 1990 collapse.
That's quite frightening, isn't it? But
Yeah,
I mean, we were talking about this not so long ago. Canada's privately held debt, like as in consumer debt, is just absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. So when they talk about debt to GDP, as in the federal government's debt as a percentage of GDP, which also isn't good, by the way. But when they talk about that as being good, they forget this stuff. This is like the Canadian people are just under a mountain of debt.
When I talked to him, we talked about heading into an economic winter and what to do, how to prepare for the winter. Some people looking south, including Mark Carney, went to sunnier climates with his money and his company. When Brookfield went south, as did his money, into sunnier climates. But most Canadians don't even have the ability to flee an economic winter. They're stuck here. And we've seen capital flee into sunnier climates. And he says this economic winter is here, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Someone here is predicting the IMF will step in. I do wonder if something like that happened. At that point, would there be a recognition that this was a problem caused by one particular faction within the political elite? Because right now, that is very rarely discussed. You have to remember the Liberal Party's been in power for more than 10 years. It's a long time.
11 now. It's almost 11 now, right? It's the thing is.
No, it's 10, I think. So yeah.
I'm going to say the same thing. The media is the problem, because they should have been holding Trudeau accountable a long time ago, and they're not holding this government accountable. You saw the way that Mark Carney walks into the Parliament. Nothing. Look at the stories that are being run up to this. Nothing. And the PBO's office, shocking, stupefying, unsustainable. We're staring at the edge of the cliff into the abyss. No deals. And then that interview, because Rosie Bartman did that interview with Pierre Poilievre, and she's basically cheerleading the Liberals and attacking Poilievre. Like, who's in power? Anyway. And then
I think we know what it looks like. We know what power looks like. We know what power wants. And it's kind of, I think that's been obvious for a number of years. But yeah, people are talking about the IMF still. I mean, I should say, not really. The IMF isn't really going to intervene in Canada. Chill out. There are so many other countries that would be ahead of Canada in the line. But the fact that we're sort of talking about it in even a semi-serious way tells you that things are quite shadowy and dark right now.
They're already coming to rescue us, and we don't even realize it. They're buying our assets at a discount. We've already seen it.
That's nice of them.
You know what I mean? We've seen it. We've seen that refinery on the BC coast there, bought by an American company. We see it all over the place.
Forestry as well, yeah.
Anyway, the only here's one of the, you talked about that budget from the past. One of the budgets passed. Justin Trudeau and the same group of Liberals promised to plant 1 billion trees. Maybe they'll use this failure to say that we can't rely on trees because they failed to plant them. We can't rely on trees, so we're going to rely on carbon capture. Get ready to hear that word.
2 billion as well, not just a mere billion.
Every time they use that word carbon capture in the budget, there, ring a bell. Because that's what. But it's kind of like
they couldn't achieve this. They couldn't achieve putting saplings into the ground, right? Not like something that was achieved tens of thousands of years ago. Not a particularly complex procedure. But we're supposed to believe that they can achieve capturing a gas and burying it underground and making sure that it's safely stored underground. We're supposed to believe that that's within their capacity.
Do you know what else they can plant trees in the ground? Other trees.
Birds,
Do you know what I mean?
birds as well.
Birds as
Bird
well.
turd carrying seeds. Yeah.
I have in my backyard a lot of jack pine that self-seed all the time, like all the time. Just drop some pine cones out of an airplane. And here's our, like, always competing with Francois Philippe Champagne for Fool of the Day, none other than, who's she in the circus? Melanie Jolie.
The bearded lady, perhaps?
Let's listen into what she has to say about the budget. They're really good at pumping tires.
Budget will be about protecting jobs, making sure that we protect our communities. This budget will be about building Canada and creating new jobs across the country like we've never seen before. And this budget will be about empowering Canadians, making sure that they have trust and confidence in their future and in the prosperity of this country. And that's why the Conservatives should vote for it. Speaker, we know there are trade tensions right now. We know
she's the mime, isn't she? Or she's the impressionist. She's doing a Donald Trump impression when he gets off the plane. You know, the meme, and it's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died. It's like, you're telling me this for the first time. That's what she was doing. So she's the mime.
She's something, all right.
I could see her being a mime, actually. Imagine her in one of the mime outfits, like doing the.
I would appreciate her as a mime more than as an MP. Here's Tiff Macklem, what he has to say. Let's listen on old Tiff here.
Look, we've been kicked, and we've got some bruises. And, you know, you can kick back, sure, that feels good, but what do you really need to do? You need to strengthen the team, and you need to win. That's how you bounce forward. So, look, what does that look like? I will stress, like, these are not things the monetary policy can do. They're not things within our mandate. We do spend a lot of time looking at the economy. We can help with the diagnosis, but when it comes to the specific policies, I'm going to leave that to our elected governments. But look, you just look at a map of North America, Canada, the U.S. Canada's a long way across, and it's been so much easier to just trade north-south, north-south, north-south. And as a result, we've underinvested in developing our internal market. We have too many interprovincial trade barriers. We have all sorts of provincial accreditation bodies for almost every plumbers, electricians, doctors, nurses, engineers, you name it. You can move, but there's added friction. We have small regulatory differences across provinces. Yes, they're well-intentioned, but we can get rid of that. And I think you are seeing some real political momentum to do that. I do worry that it's a bit too piecemeal. And I mean, the objective here is to lower the cost of doing business across the country and growing our internal market. A comprehensive approach would be much more effective in achieving that. The other part is that we need to improve our east-west transportation so we can move things more inexpensively across the country. And then if we want to diversify our exports, well, we need to get things east-west. We need to improve our port capacity, and that will help. So those are some of the things that I think.
Not rocket science. Not rocket science. Port access.
But also, why did he say that's not my mandate? Political economy is not my mandate, which is true. Why did he say that and then proceed to offer loads of political ideas for helping the economy? What's the point? What's the point of even saying things? Do you know what I mean? What is the point? Why did he openly acknowledge, oh, I shouldn't talk about this. However, I'm going to talk about it now. And you have to bear in mind that this is a fella who himself and his organization are kind of walled off. They're shielded within the political debate. You're not supposed to say certain things about Tiff Macklem or the Bank of Canada or monetary policy. You're just not supposed to do it. And yet he then just happily just steps over that wall and starts talking about politics.
I think he also likely sees the moment we're in and how dire it is. And we can't even fix interprovincial trade barriers. Team Canada, they talk about Team Canada, and we look what happened with Eby and Ford and Carney and Wab Canoe and Danielle Smith, and I'm like, there is no Team Canada here. And then there's this next clip here, the recognition of how important the United States is to Canada. Let's play this small clip here.
So this time a year ago, we were talking about soft landing, right? You had inflation under control. Certainly in the months following our conversation last year, it started to feel really, really bad. Liberation Day came and everything, it looked like it was over. Here was the next global recession facing us. But that didn't happen, right? The global economy is still okay, right? Everybody's sort of starting to revise up their growth estimates.
Exports of other countries to the United States, particularly China, the European Union, and Canada, down sharply. You are seeing, at the same time, you're seeing countries trying to increase their trade with non-U.S., with other countries. China has very impressively actually pretty much filled, they exports the U.S. down a lot. They've increased their exports to Southeast Asia, to Europe. It's largely replaced the lost. Now for Canada, that's a lot harder. 75% of our trade is with the United States. You do see some increase in our trade with other countries, but we can't replace 75% because we are so.
Again, common sense tells you the reality of the situation. It's just common sense. Something that is in short supply lots of times, common sense. But hey.
But we also have to, we've got to be honest with ourselves as well. Like, I think there's an assumption that, America is a very rich country. Therefore, we can do the same. We can be the same as them. And this idea that we can do what they do. Something that's important to bear in mind is America doesn't really depend on international trade for its wealth. A lot of it's just internal. It's because it's a continent, basically. It's the best bit of North America in economic terms. So they're just kind of rich by default. That's not necessarily true in Canada. Like, we really do have to kind of go out into the world and trade and sell things. But if you look at a map, as Tiff Macklem was advising us to do, if you look at a map, we're pretty isolated, which is a good thing. It helps keep us safe, protects us from the crazy world. But that also means that it's kind of hard to go out into the world for, the majority of your trade income, especially when just beneath you, just there, like just over the border, you have the richest country in the history of the world with the best geography ever seen in a country in history.
Strongest military, all kinds of things, right? Everything. And liberal policies over the past 10 years have kiboshed our ability to access other markets. Northern Gateway Pipeline, the one to the east, and all those things that could give us some reliance on other people. We kiboshed that ourselves. Like, what you can get out of what Tiff Macklem has to say in those two clips, self-harm. That's what we've done to ourselves. Self-harm. Over and over and over again. Self-harm. Liberal policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. Self-harm. And our richest province, Alberta, we've treated it like the ugly stepsister, the golden goose. We treat it like it's got the plague most of the time, and it's just absolutely embarrassing. And then here you got Ford that is, tries to speak for Canada. And let's listen to this ad thing that's caused so much kerfuffle here, where Doug Ford's ego gets in the way of his brain power sometimes. Let's listen to what Doug Ford has to say.
I'm not going to get into he said, back and forth. I don't think the people of Canada want that. I know one thing, we're united on getting a deal. I have asked them to focus on many areas, but especially on the auto sector, and I know he's doing his best to get that back to the table.
You don't want to correct the public record here? The Prime Minister says he had to apologize, and he said that he asked you specifically not to run the commercial.
Well, again, I'm not going to go back and forth. I had a different recollection of our conversation, but that's, people don't need that. They want to move forward, to get a deal, to protect jobs and protect the economy of Ontario and of Canada.
So you don't remember him saying no?
No, again, I'm not going down that avenue. I know I've talked to him this morning through text message. We have a great relationship. We're focused on the same areas, and that's protecting Canadian jobs, Ontario jobs, the steel sector, the auto sector, life sciences, and manufacturing.
Are you able to share your recollection, Premier? What's your
Again, I'm just not going to go down that avenue. I'm not jumping into that bear trap. We have a great relationship. I'll tell you one thing. What he did do, he called me from Asia a couple times and said, pull the ad. And I said I wasn't going to do it until we're going to pause the ad on Monday, and that's exactly what we did. It was 12.4 billion impressions around the world, and they talked about it on the Senate floor. I love the fact that 4 Republicans jumped over.
How about some honesty from somebody? Just from somebody. Just a little bit. Just a dash of honesty. I guess Canadians don't deserve any honesty. Why would we? Why would we? I was going to play this clip, but we're going to run out of time because we've got so much to get through. Andrew Scheer put out this thing, how much the budget's a fancy little video, too. It's got a lot of eye candy in it, but you can go watch it. You can go find it yourself there if you're so interested in it. But we're going to play this little clip here back on Rosemary Barton with Pierre Poilievre. Just a small clip of this, though.
Since he promised to get rid of American tariffs, they've doubled and tripled in the case of softwood lumber. He says he's going to open up other markets, so he meets with the Chinese. And what do? They increase tariffs on canola, seafood, and pork. He meets with the Indians. What do? Increase tariffs on our peas by 30%. He meets with the Brits. What do? They hit us with blockades of our beef. It seems like everywhere Mark Carney goes, with these grand meetings and photo ops, we end up with more tariffs. His failures abroad are costing us at home.
He met with the Chinese president, though, and they made a decision that their officials were going to get together and try and solve the trade irritants. He is trying to make some progress, no? You don't see those things as a bit of progress?
What progress? Can you name one tariff line that he's reduced abroad?
That's good.
No, not at the
That's good. She says none. That's what we've got so far, 7 months, nothing.
I'm surprised she said that even.
Yeah.
I thought, usually she would have just changed topic. Well, she did change the topic, but like
right
would have
away,
done it instantly.
She just went around and she's just like, well, but meetings, you can't fill bowls with meetings. You can't fill bowls with virtue signaling and identity politics.
Sorry, I'm going to have to respond to this semi-literate person that can't spell my name. Just have a look at people's, proper nouns. At least spell a proper noun correctly. You can make other spelling mistakes, but I have to draw a line under that. But you're asking about a poppy. I have got a poppy lying around somewhere, but I don't feel the need to put it on just to say, look at me with my poppy, like all these shitheads are doing that we're talking about, these politicians.
Are you talking about me right now?
Well, not you, Jim, obviously. I mean, I think your opinions are on the record. But we're talking about these people in our political system who do nothing but hurt the military, harm military families, fail to give them the right equipment, send them places they don't want to go for no reason, often to die in places like Afghanistan. They're the ones that wear poppies because they're the ones that have to pretend that they care about those people. I don't need to pretend about anything. And I should also say, it comes from the First World War that members of my family fought in the Battle of the Somme. It's like, it's a personal thing. Mm-hmm. So shut your mouth.
Underfunded, under-equipped, undermanned, and now under-led. And we have neglected our military far too long. Let's see what we get in this budget other than fancy footwork by moving the Coast Guard in, who refuses to be armed, doesn't want anything to do with the military, and we're going to move them in there just so we can kind of play fancy accounting processes. And plus, we don't even give our soldiers safe drinking water, housing that's habitable, and toilets that flush. That was in 7 of the 14 ones that the Auditor General inspected. That's their words, not mine.
And yet we have people here like our beloved Lightning Rod who's saying it's disrespectful not to wear a poppy.
That's all right.
But it's not. It isn't the disrespectful thing to oversee this catastrophe in the military, this daily insult to people in the military. That's not disrespectful. It's not wearing a $2 token, as if that means anything. Shut up.
Let's move on to the, don't get yourself dragged into it. Let's move on to the auto sector here, whereas they're trying to get that information, like the billions of dollars we gave Stellantis, and now they don't want to release information. Imagine that. I said that they weren't going to release that information. Now, I'll go back and let's play that clip here from Raquel Dancho here. Let's play, and Melanie Joly, let's listen in.
Respond. So on the commercially sensitive redactions, now on the CIF agreement for Nexstar, the jobs guarantee of 2,500 was not redacted. So it stands to reason that it wouldn't be redacted, wouldn't be commercially sensitive under a different CIF agreement. Surely you can tell us if there was a 3,000 person jobs guarantee for Brampton, and that's not commercially sensitive information. So it is concerning to me that you're not committing that there was a jobs guarantee for the Brampton facility.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So you're saying that there is?
I'm saying that all the plants were linked and all the contracts are linked. So you will be able to see it when we will be producing.
But if there wasn't a jobs guarantee of 3,000 people at Brampton, which is the whole reason you're here, then how is it that you're tying all of the money to a jobs guarantee that may or may not exist? You should be able to tell us if there is a jobs guarantee for the 3,000 jobs in Brampton.
I think you're falling into the trap of trying to find a problem where there's none.
Well, the problem is that 3,000 people were laid off,
the government
and your
was
government committed millions and billions, in fact, of dollars.
Well, MP Dancho,
and we're trying
I don't know whether you want
this
to be a monologue or you want me to appear.
Because the question I'm asking you is very clear.
I don't need to be here.
Colleagues, I'm going to pause us again.
Let's stop. Yeah, that's good enough here. Again, they said that they won't release these job guarantees unless the automaker gives permission. What? Like literally what? You give away $15 billion, she said millions, $15 billion in aid to Stellantis battery plants in Windsor and Brampton. And then they announced the 3,000 job cuts. And Joly testified that job guarantees were secret but explicit. Clearly, it is about protecting jobs. Well, you know what? As an industry minister, we've seen layoff after layoff. They've done an abysmal job at protecting jobs in Canada, an abysmal job at protecting jobs. Just absolutely abysmal. They've killed the auto sector with the EV mandate. I mean, that's clear to say. When Chrystia Freeland was transport minister, they told her, get rid of the EV mandate. No. They paused it, and then the automakers have to decide where they're going to build plants. What did they do? They're going to build plants in the United States. That's what Stellantis says. We're going to build a plant in the United States. We're going to invest billions over there. And now they won't even release the information. Like this is like some top secret information. This is what I mean. The Liberals are not held accountable. They refuse to be held accountable. This is time after time after time. And we're going to see even Stephen Guilbeault still haven't got that information from Stephen Guilbeault on the alleged $250 million green scheme stuff that's going on. These are the things that are important. These are the things that are important. Let's not get caught up in distractions. Like $15 billion, and they won't release the documents.
I would also highlight that, I agree with most of what you just said there, but I would also highlight how dangerous, to use the language of the CBC and the Liberal Party, how dangerous that was of Melanie Joly. And I would advise her to issue a public apology, come out on her knees and express contrition, because she's putting our democracy at risk there, don't you think? By saying, I don't have to be here, and interrupting a democratically elected member of parliament who's scrutinizing her in the proper way. She's saying, I don't have to be here. That's exceedingly dangerous language that undermines democracy in this country. If you believe in democracy, then play by the rules.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I think that is like a sliver of the truth from behind the curtain, is because she said, I don't have to be here, because they refuse to be held accountable. This is just more of the same. Why not show us the documents? If there's nothing to hide and you're here to protect jobs, show the documents. Show the documents to Canadians. She's put out this statement. On October 20th, Stellantis was asked to deliver a clear and credible plan, and then we'll always stand up for Canadian auto workers. Share the documents. Share the documents. You said that you write good contracts. We watched that little speech she made, it was a few days ago, where she made that the Liberals always sign good contracts. Then show us. Brag it up then. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this good contract.
Or at the very least, take the Canadian people seriously enough to behave yourself and not act like a sullen, rebellious child, saying that you're just going to walk away. Treat these institutions with respect and explain yourself. She does have a justification for this. she does have an explanation to do with, like commercial sensitivity or whatever it is, then explain it to us. But it's this contemptuous attitude to the Canadian people. And I think in part it's because she's such a kind of fragile person that it wasn't about democracy. It wasn't about Canada. It wasn't about Stellantis or any of these things. It was about that woman opposite her that was getting her blood up, and she couldn't take it. So she just lashed out. That's obviously a separate question. You have to ask if a person with that kind of mentality is suited to the job that Melanie Joly has.
If you had half a brain or half common sense, you would recognize that EV mandate has cost more automobile jobs in Canada than anything else. Is that they don't make money. The automakers here in Canada don't make money selling EVs. Nobody does. There's only one company in the world that is profitable in making EVs. Any guesses? Just a small guess. It's not any Chinese ones. It's Tesla. That's the only one. So GM, Ford, Stellantis, all of them, their foray right now is hybrids. They're even closing an EV plant in the US, the GM is. They don't make money selling this. You're putting this EV cloud over their heads. And then yesterday in committee too, listen to this. They're touting this. They tout electric health benefits. Electric cars reduce Medicare costs. And that says the Department of Environment. Authorities yesterday made the claim the Commons Environment Committee, but would not put a cash value on the specific savings. Of course not. How can you put a cash value on just a ludicrous statement, right? Electric vehicles bring health benefits and cost savings to Canadians. And that was from Megan Nichols, the Assistant Deputy Environment Minister. They reduce air pollution in Canadian communities, reduce healthcare costs. Okay. So is this how it works? If you drive an electric vehicle, you can then virtue signal over other people and say, you know, how much better you are than the other person? Well, I drive an electric vehicle, and I never go around touting to somebody like how I'm saving the world and they're not. People will make the choice when they decide to make the choice, not because some person is pushing them to do something. A lot of people would like to buy an electric car probably. Let Tesla come here and let them lower the prices so that more people can buy an electric car that actually works. Stop punishing the most consequential person on this planet right now. You called him a Nazi, for God's sakes. Anyway, potential changes to the controversial electric EV sales ban will be announced this winter in official Environment and Climate Change Canada. They changed the name of that ministry now? Environment and Climate Change?
Yeah, that was a while ago, yeah. I mean, to be fair, just call it Environment Canada, I would say. Don't let them get away with it.
Oh, they said they've been working on this for a while, but it won't be finished until the end of 2026. What? It's going to take
it won't be finalized, so that it'll be there, but then they won't make a decision, basically, which means, you know, unlike what some of our chums have said in the past, Mr. Rod, I'm looking at you, that means that this is going to hover over the industry for at least another 12 months.
Here you go. This is how it's done. Here you're in the boardroom at GM. Again, GM Canada, GM USA, GM whatever, Europe. Just like, okay, we're going to invest. We're going to build a new plant. We're going to build this whatever. Brand new Camaro Z28. What about building in Canada? Well, it's not electric. They got an EV mandate there. Why would we spend billions of dollars there and then have this EV mandate hanging over our heads? Okay, so we're not building it there. Let's build it in Europe. And then they just start laughing, right? And then so the only choice is where are you going to build it? Less taxation, less regulation, fast tracked. You get to write off the other thing that the U.S. has got going on, 100% depreciation for capital expenditures in the United States right now. That reduces their taxation. Huge. Think of that. 100% write off, year one. Okay. And then we talked about it yesterday. Food prices, like beef prices, compared to, like, a lot of people still drive across the border and pay that extra. Pay that extra in, I don't know who that was. That was maybe God talking to us. Pay that extra in the exchange and still do better buying it across the line. But here's some of the taxes that are added on. Let's listen in.
So on the commercially sensitive redactions, now on the SIF agreement for Nexstar, the jobs guarantee of 2,500 was not redacted. So it stands to reason that it wouldn't be redacted, wouldn't be commercially sensitive under a different SIF agreement. Surely you can tell us if there was a 3,000 person jobs guarantee for Brampton, and that's not commercially sensitive information. So it is concerning to me that you're not committing that there was a jobs guarantee for the Brampton
that's
facility.
not what I'm saying.
So you're saying that there is?
I'm saying that all the plants were.
I think this is the wrong clip here. But anyway, that's the.
We love a bit of Jolly anyway. Nice to have it twice.
We'll come back to that. We'll leave that for now. They'll come back later. But here you go. Border agents recovered contraband from a total of 5 rail cars last year. New figures show nearly 2 million train cars entered the country. The data followed warnings from Customs and Immigration Union that smugglers shipping guns and drugs by rail, ready for this, had almost a 0 chance of getting caught. CN Rail delivering contraband to a place near you. 0 chance that any illegal weapons entering the country via rail will ever be found. That's from Mark Webber, the National Union president. Railways are given leeway to run trains across the border without inspection. Why not? Hey? And if you just put that news out there, why dig tunnels and all that stuff in Canada? You just put it on the rail. Agency
send it in the mail as well. That's the other thing they do.
The border agency refused to disclose how many rail cars were physically inspected overall, citing, again, ready for this, the Privacy Act. A total of 5 cars were found to contain contraband based on police tips. Contraband seized last year included 11 million doses of amphetamine and 65,000 kilos of tobacco. We don't really have rail examination capabilities at the first port of arrival in Canada, said Weber. Trains that, for instance, used to be looked at in Fort Frances, Ontario, coming to Canada, now are being looked at 400 kilometers away in Winnipeg. Lots can happen between there and Winnipeg, like throwing the stuff out. The Canadian Border Services Agency in a 2024 report acknowledged curbs in cross-border smuggling were unclear. While there is a general consensus from various stakeholders that programs' activities lead to the disruption of criminal activities, there is currently no way to measure to extent which it takes place. But hey, let's not worry about this. Let's go after registered gun owners in Canada. That should be the focus.
It's just such a crazy thing as well to announce publicly, isn't it? Saying, oh, if you put guns or drugs on a train, like basically 0 chance that they're gonna be found.
But this is,
criminals read the news too. they're definitely gonna act on this.
This is the madness. How much I'm just trying to my memory, maybe you remember. How much did we spend so far collecting Canadians' guns? I think it was $43 million with 0 guns collected from Canadians. Something like that. And here's the real problem, right? Trainloads of guns, drugs, and everything coming across the border uninspected. But no, let's focus on the regular Canadian that has a registered gun.
Yep, many such cases.
And then ask yourself, keep voting for this madness. Lightning Rod, any thoughts on that? How are you going to fix this, Lightning Rod?
Call in, Lightning Rod. Let's have you on. We need your insight.
And here's the food professor at committee hearing too, talking about the inflation that the Liberals have added to the price of foods. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Questioning. You published a research paper last year on the carbon tax and its impact on the supply chain. They still have an industrial carbon tax in place. Have you done any work in terms of what the impact of the industrial carbon tax is on the supply chain and the food costs in Canada?
Well, our study, if you recall, was focused mainly on the industrial carbon tax, the part that most consumers don't see. That's been our concerns from day one, looking at the wholesale prices. And since the publication of both of our studies, because we published 2 studies, 2 papers, the gap between wholesale prices in Canada versus the U.S., food wholesale prices have actually increased. So, and we believe that one factor driving this is the carbon tax. And so we're very concerned. And of course, we're looking at food prices into 2026 right now with Canada's food price report. And again, we don't, at this point, we feel that we actually may provide Canadians with some bad news for 2026. But we are expecting food inflation to continue to be a problem moving forward.
So are you going to give us the answer before the reports come out on December 4th?
Not
on
yet.
What the...
December 4th.
So, okay, we have to wait? Okay, fair. Now, it's interesting that you raise this because, timing is everything, but it came up a number of times, a question period today about the industrial carbon tax and the front of pack labeling and the plastics food ban, the impact that has on food prices. The Liberal ministers in their response said, here the Conservatives again are talking about imaginary taxes on food. But you yourself have said in your research that the industrial carbon tax does have an impact on food prices. Would you say the same about the front of pack labeling and the P2 plastics ban, which the Deloitte study, it said, but the combined would be about $14 billion in additional costs. Would you agree with that assessment from Deloitte, and the industrial carbon tax would have an impact on what consumers are facing at the grocery store shelf?
I would, yes. I do appreciate why the government is doing what it's doing, because it wants to better products. It wants to be seen as a good environmental steward. But at the same time, with more policy comes more red tape and more costs. And this is the trap that we've fallen into several times over the last few decades. And here we are now. If you look at, say, the G7 right now, we're the only country within the G7 which has seen 4 consecutive months of a food inflation rate increase. So we're not going in the right direction right now.
I appreciate
That's funny. Your friend Lightning Rod says we make up stuff here. We just basically read stuff from committee hearings. That's hilarious. That admission.
Yeah, what are we making up exactly?
That admission on the train stuff, that comes from the head of the union of the rail. Making it up, eh? That's the problem. As soon as you hit a truth that is troubling, what's the response? Must be lying. Must be lying.
But you've got to ask yourself, how fragile is your worldview? If that's all you can do to defend it, is to assume the worst of your opponents, if you want to call us that. You got to have a thought about how weak your views are.
And somebody wrote in here that Canada owns less than 100 ounces of gold. Yeah, according to the Bank of Canada, it's zero. So zero is less than 100 ounces. Yeah, zero. So there you go. Yeah, I think in 2015 we sold the last of it and said that it was antiquated. So there you go. And then this is what the Canadian budget said to be tabled. They're talking about some tax dodging here. Let's listen to this here.
Suggest that Brookfield has been a master of making use of our tax system in ways that range from perfectly legitimate all the way to seriously questionable. And I'm not accusing them of having broken any laws whatsoever. I want to call attention to why the laws exist as they do and the need to bring more light to bear on how taxes are being avoided, because a lot of it is of dubious economic benefit to Canada, to Canadians. And Brookfield has really been a masterclass in this tax avoidance when you look at what their effective tax rate is versus what you would expect them to pay based on the combined provincial federal income tax rate.
And of course, it's hard to have an exact.
We ought to get through some of this stuff, but we've talked about Brookfield a number of times. Yeah, so here we have Mark Carney's Brookfield. He moved it to the United States to sunnier climates. He moved his assets there as well. And then also Brookfield been identified as one of the Canada's largest tax dodgers. And I'll be surprised today if at the end of the budget is that we don't hear the words carbon capture a zillion times. Like I say, you just got to ring the bell every time you hear that word carbon capture and guess it. And then you go to the website of BAM, Brookfield Asset Management, and check what is one of their biggest future endeavors. And I'm going to guess it rhymes with carbon capture.
We have that video, by the way, that we couldn't get earlier. If you want to play that one.
We're going to move on here.
It's just it's relevant to what's going on here, isn't it? It's about the Liberal MP saying that you're just making it up. That's kind of a good theme.
Okay.
A costly budget means a costly life for Canadians. Every dollar this Liberal government spends comes out of Canadians' pockets through higher taxes and inflation. Hidden taxes like the Liberals' industrial carbon tax, their fuel standards, and food packaging tax are all driving up the cost of groceries. The packaging tax alone will cost the food industry $5.6 billion and drive up the price of produce by 34%. Will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election and instead scrap the food packaging tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes that the party opposite makes up.
What?
That's where Mr. Rod gets that from. That's where he gets his lines.
You're lying. You're lying. You're lying. Always. You're lying.
Mr. Rod, who earlier on said that implied that, or said actually that I was fragile because I came to Canada. Why are you so anti-immigrant? Why do you hate immigrants so much, Mr. Rod? And are you sure that the Liberal Party approves of your position on immigrants? I don't think they do.
Forestry has been in British Columbia has been an abject mess for like 5 or 6, 7 years, and here it is. They doled out a little bit. They were here actually. Carney was here in West Kelowna putting a Band-Aid on it. Here, this is what the forest industry has to say about their Band-Aid.
How many jobs have been lost since the April election in forestry?
We're about 2,000 was my last count.
And they're just on EI right now, assuming, or?
Yeah, I can't speak to. There's some in more recent days. Our hope is those waiting periods would be waived and whatnot. I can't comment. Unifor might be able to help you with that later today.
So we hear about all the money that the Liberals are throwing at the sector, but of the $1.2 billion they've announced, $700 million is just loan-backed guarantees for companies if they don't survive Carney not getting a softwood deal. So there's $700 million in loans, and then the $500 million that was supercharged was really just renewed funding from NRCan through the Canada Forest Services. Isn't it safe to say that this $1.2 billion announcement is just a Band-Aid over what is a serious problem for the industry?
Yeah, well, we called it a good first step, but you could call it a Band-Aid. I'll say this: at 45%, if this continues for another 1, 2, 3 months, 1.2 billion is not going to be enough.
So, who was the last Prime Minister that did get a softwood deal?
Prime Minister Harper did.
So, if Carney does not get a successful deal, we're talking thousands of jobs lost across Canada, correct?
Yes.
So here for the people, we're not making this up. I've done tons of forestry interviews, including with the Forest Minister of BC, the former one, and the Premier of British Columbia. Prior to Donald Trump winning the election, the Kofi reported 10,000 job losses in British Columbia in the forest industry. 10,000 in the prior 2 years. 10,000 job losses. This is just adding to it. Also, Canfor, Canadian Forest Products, BC company, halted its investment in Houston, where it was going to build a new sawmill. Said that BC is uninvestable. Also, closed Bear Lake. Also, cut production in Prince George, and I believe more layoffs there. Also interviewed the VP of AP Planers, and also that guy said that BC is just I can't get access to fiber, and that's the complaint. I even talked to Premier Eby about that. I said that people are talking about access to fiber, and he recognized as well that they need to do a better job of it. I interviewed Brenda Bailey, at the time the Jobs and Innovation Minister, and asked her why forestry sawmills were not part of their jobs plan. And she said, well, we're concentrating on finished, like value-added forestry. And I said, isn't a 2x4 value-added? Like a sawmill, you put it in the wall. What more value are you adding to a 2x4? Sawmills are closing like crazy. And she's like, yeah, well, I mean, sawmills are doing bad everywhere. And I said, well, they're not doing bad in Alberta. And all you get is silence at those points, right? Our forestry sector, according to some forestry insiders, say that it was the Liberal government, Stephen Guilbeault, saying we don't want any trees cut down in British Columbia. access to fiber is the biggest complaint. The self-harm again, self-harm. So, you know, either we start recognizing the reality of the situation or we continue to cheerlead this nonsense, and that's cheerlead Francois Philippe Champagne's new pair of shoes. Just ridiculous. But anyway, I'm making it up. Go back and read all the interviews. Go watch them. I would love it if you did, by the way. We spent a lot of time on that stuff. Also worked in the sawmill industry. For those that I worked as a 16-year-old, started on the green chain. I know lots of people in the forestry industry. Worked in that industry for 10 years, and I have lots of family members that still work in the industry, and it's been gutted. And here's some more bad news for Canada when we talk about critical minerals. Guess what one of them is? Copper. And here you go. Glencore is going to consider shutting down Canada's largest copper plant. Why? Steep environmental upgrades and operational costs. The Swiss commodities giant currently operates the Horn Canadian Copper Refinery. This is what they need, is refineries, more so than anything. It's like the resources are not that in Tesla. It's refining of the metals that's the problem, right? So this would be huge. A closure, according to the source, would impact as many as 1,000 workers employed on the two sites, and estimated would require about $200 million to modernize this plant. Well, they better invest in it if they want to have anything to do with critical minerals here in Canada. And that's founded nearly 100 years ago. You know, Canada used to be one of the preeminent places for mining. Some of the best technology, some of the best people. Neglected.
Also some really good and efficient industry. And you can see why. Mark Carney knows why, because he said the other day when he was talking about aluminium production, he said it's bauxite plus energy. Yeah. Canada has a lot of energy, as we discuss frequently. It's kind of by rights, the Lord has decreed that Canada should be a major industrial player because of how cheap and abundant energy is. And yet this is the reality.
20 years to get a mine in operation here in Canada, 20 years. And I was a mine site controller as well. And I know, like basically, like just like there was so much in the way of getting stuff done, and we were putting a nickel mine into operation. It was basically tripping over yourself to try to get anything done. Anyway. And then here's, we're going to move on to this here. Friend Chase Barber, I've interviewed a couple times. Chase Barber, Edison Motors, stealing Tesla's ideas. He wanted to move he sold a truck into Manitoba. You have to listen to what he has to say. I won't front run him. Let's listen to what Chase has to say.
All right, good news. It's Monday morning. We just got our permits and we are now able to take this truck into Manitoba. So a lot of people are asking, why did we need a permit? We don't seem to be oversized, overheight, or anything like that. And it's because Canada has interprovincial barriers to trade. Basically, a semi-truck from one province can't go into another province without paying that province a couple $100s first. Now, trucks that do this all the time, they can get a prorated license plate, keep track of their kilometers, pay at the end of the year. Because this truck doesn't do that a lot, it mainly doesn't leave Alberta, it doesn't have prorate, so it's got to get an individual permit, which most provinces, you can all do that online, no problem. Manitoba, you actually have to phone somebody. But why does Canada have this? Why do semi-trucks have to pay a couple $100s every time they transfer provinces? It's all one country. It should be the same, and we should have free movement of goods within our own country. The fact that we had to sit here for 2 days is a sign of a broken economy. We need to unite this country, and this is just stupid.
Quite, as Tiff Macklem himself said earlier on when we had a video from him. It is stupid. I mean, it's beyond stupid. It's self-destructive.
Seems odd. No? Seems odd.
It's just, I mean, it's also kind of, this is about economic freedom, isn't it? Milton Friedman his head would explode looking at this. I mean, maybe he did look at it when he was alive. But this is like, this curtails one's freedom, doesn't it? This is like in China, for example. China has lots of different provinces, obviously, and they have all kinds of rules. They have rules in China about where you can live. You know, it's like you basically become an immigrant if you move from one province to another, and you have to go through a formal process. China, obviously, is not a very free country at all, really, is it? So we should try in all ways possible to be less like China.
One of the architects of where we are today, the moment that we're in, as Francois Philippe Champagne says, the moment that we're in this is one of the architects, him and Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney was the economic advisor. Where's the paperwork on this? Guilbeault, Stephen Guilbeault, accused of siphoning off $254 million of green scheme money. Where is the paperwork on that? Where is it? Do we have an answer yet?
Do we have an interview with Stephen Guilbeault yet? No. Do you want to see my email chain with his media woman, which just goes back and forth, going back like 7 months or something now? Cool.
They ran on transparency and accountability. It's easy to say those words. Here's another one.
But then we have such a vigorous and glorious state broadcaster. They ask all these questions all the time on our behalf. They make us all redundant. I mean, there's no point to people like us, is there?
Most of these stories we do, which somebody here accuses us of making stuff up, are done, aren't done by CBC. They don't want to talk about it. Here's another one. No limits on drug locations. Health Canada does not require drug injection sites be located in minimum distance from schools, daycares, playgrounds, according to a departmental report. It's not the cabinet's job, the health minister said. Told that to MPs. Health Canada does not set a minimum distance requirement between safe consumption sites and nearby locations. It said in the submission to Commons Health Committee, nor does the department collect or maintain a comprehensive list of addresses for these facilities in Canada. Why would they? Why should they? Hey? The department to date has licensed 31 sites in 6 provinces under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. They include 13 in Ontario, 5 in BC, and Alberta and Quebec, 2 in Saskatchewan, 1 in Nova Scotia. And then, they're asked the question, are you aware the department is approving supervised consumption sites next to daycares, schools, and playgrounds? And that was asked by MP Mazier. Supervised consumption sites were created to prevent overdose deaths. They don't care about the children.
Seems like they have a legal obligation to put them within a certain distance of a Tim Hortons as well, in my own experience.
And then you just add to the comedy, more comedy. So, and here's a good one here that says there's no kids. That says that this gamblers federal regulation of sports betting is unnecessary since kids don't watch TV. Well, if they don't watch TV, let's cut the funding for CBC because we give them so much funding to get that culture out to the children for CBC. So why are we paying it if, according to this arm of the government, says nobody watches TV? So just use their argument against them. A bill mandating federal regulation passed the Senate unanimously and is currently before the Commons. And it said the Canadian Gaming Commission wrote, kids don't watch TV. The group cited data from the ratings agency Numeris, formerly the Bureau of Broadcast Measurement, indicating hockey viewership for kids under 18 dropped by 45% in 2020. Who actually watches TV? The only thing left is the boomers. Like, who actually consumes CBC? That's the vote they have, the Liberals, is the boomers. And they just eat that stuff like it's pablum.
But that's 2020. Is that saying from... Oh, okay, so measuring it from 2020 to now. Okay. Because I was going to say, if anyone was going to watch TV ever, it was probably 2020, wasn't it, during COVID?
So, there you go. And then here's Doug Ford. Remember when Chrystia Freeland and the rest of the Liberals were anti-Elon Musk, and Doug Ford, again, never to miss an opportunity to virtue signal, came out and said he's canceling the deal with Starlink. And because he said that he's not going to give Elon Musk any money, the most consequential person of our time. Ontario will miss its 2025 rural broadband goals, pushing it out to 2028. And that is due to Ontario. That's due to Doug Ford scrapping that $100 million deal with Starlink. You know how easy to get Starlink going up and running? I have 3 Starlink dishes. You literally plug it in. I've talked to some people that have enough, and they're just shocked and stupefied. You take it out of the box and you plug it in, and within 5 minutes you have internet. But Doug Ford would rather wait for some Canadian satellite company that doesn't have satellites or a means to get them into space to launch satellites, possibly, and then get the satellites going. You know what I mean?
But it's not him it's not Doug Ford that has to wait. Doug Ford doesn't care. He's always going to have internet. He lives in Toronto. He's going to have fiber optic or whatever. Everything's fine and dandy for Doug Ford. It's the people that live in rural Ontario. They're just screwed. It's just like, sorry, this is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. You know, that's basically what Doug Ford said, even though it's not going to affect them.
And again, he did this for political reasons. Remember when Chrystia Freeland was accusing Elon Musk of being a Nazi? There's no viable alternatives. And the $4 billion program targeting 700,000 households remains active. Wonder where that $4 billion it will end up. We have to wonder.
Let's hope it succeeds. I mean, fingers crossed that it produces a company that goes on to make billions of dollars and all the rest of it. But I mean, history doesn't suggest that that's a wise position to take. That's not a wise guess.
Lightning Rod is a comedian. He says, so internet from another country is fine, but ferries from another country, bad. Yep. Yeah, you got that right. There you go.
Well, the difference is, chum, we don't have the technology here. That's the whole point. We can't do it because we don't know how to do it. The only people that know how to do it basically are the Americans, or in this case, Elon Musk, who's a Canadian. Maybe that makes you feel better. I don't know. But we can build ships because that's easy. Everybody can build ships. It's just about whether or not you have the will.
Yeah. And also, you need a means to launch them into space. 90% of the rocket launches are done by, ready? Ready? In the world. Ready? Ready, Lightning Rod? Guess who? Take a guess. We'll just leave it with you. You think about it. Who launches all the rockets? You just leave that with yourself. And then I guess somebody did say Canada's going to launch its own space program. Just wait for it. Just wait for it.
Alongside the national car. Air Canada's Canadian car.
Don't forget Air Canada's building the rail system between Montreal
and the car. We'll let them build the car as well.
Why not? Chorus Entertainment yesterday announced this global restructuring, global news. So they're actually, I don't know who's buying this debt, but Global is, they had all this debt and they basically created a new shell called Newco. They're going to sell the shares and they kind of did some fancy finagling and they sold this this penny stock basically to these debt holders, which I think that debt was trading around 30 cents on the dollar. And they knew they were going to get nothing. The Shaw Family Living Trust holds most of this senior debt. And I mean, it's basically, this thing lives off of government handouts. And you wonder why their reporting is biased. They basically have the begging bowl out there and they're basically technically bankrupt. But hey, why not?
It's
not?
It's so messy, isn't it? It's filthy.
Why
stock
not?
System.
So the liberal MOs cripple industries, cripple them with bills like Bill C-18, the Online News Act, cripple them, put them on their knees and have them beg for scraps from the government, and then you have control over them. Look at, again, just go back to that first video we played, as listen to the reporters as Mark Carney walks into one of the biggest days. We haven't had a budget in like over a year. Not one question. Don't dare ask a question. We could get our funding cut. There you go. So this thing's going to court. We expected it to go to court. It's taken a long time, though. Everything takes a long time in this country to go to court. That former Bloc MP who lost by a single vote, she said, will appeal to the Supreme Court. There you go.
Another almost a calculated effort to undermine Canadian democracy.
Another one.
In this case, once again, by the Liberal Party of Canada, which is, I was led to believe, the chief defender of democracy in this country. But they couldn't see what a mess this was and how bad this looks. They couldn't see it, apparently. And they couldn't just say, okay, let's do a let's just resign, let's have a by-election, let's do it right. For some reason, they couldn't see that.
Are you ready for one of the most clownish cheerleading deals of the day for the CBC? Listen to this. This has got to be the biggest cheerleading of the day. Listen, look at this. Listen though. This is absolutely crazy.
In one seat. Callie, do you want to break this down for us? Yeah, I mean, very early, so we can't get too excited just yet. But yes, it looks like Brent McDonald is taking the lead over Richard Nagano. Brent McDonald longtime Dawsonite who's been there.
That's good. That's all.
years.
You just like they could freeze it on that image. Just leave that image up there, like in the middle of our screen there. She's excited because they've counted 24 votes so far in the Yukon election. You can't even make this stuff up. They've counted 24 votes, and she's excited. Hey,
I think this is seats, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah,
Oh no, it's a riding. Okay,
No,
but
it's
how
a
many
riding.
people
No, it's a-
actually
it's a
vote? I
vote.
don't know. In Yukon, it's
There's
probably
not
pretty.
many.
No,
Not
yeah.
many. Still, I think to count the first 24 ballots out and get excited, come on. And then the reality sets in, though, and I never got a clip of what it sounded like after. It must have been just like almost like MSNBC when Trump won, where they were throwing stuff around the room. Conservatives won. The Yukon has overwhelmingly voted out the governing Liberals and reducing them to one seat that they got basically wiped out. And they gave the Yukon party a supermajority government. There's only one Liberal premier left in Canada. Is that Doug Ford they're talking about? There you go. So here we got some of the results here, though. So I think we won't put up all of it, but the Liberals, in Whitehorse there, the Liberal Mike Pemberton, the incumbent, was reduced to 12% of the vote there. Liberals. There you go. And then
I've seen this fella, this Twitter account, who obviously hates the Liberals, trying to make this a sort of national story about the Liberals and all that. I don't think so. This is Yukon. You can't read much into what happens in the territories, I don't think. But nice try.
Well, the territories typically, and the North was typically very NDP and Liberal for longest time, though. Very long time.
Yeah.
Very long time. But they're also seeing like jobs would be nice. This bodes well for this rail that Daniel Smith is proposing to go from north of Alberta through the Yukon into Alaska.
Yeah. Well, it'd be annoying if they had to go around BC, but do what you got to do.
And then the head of AI in Canada, look at this, Evan Solomon. Remember, Evan Solomon, disgraced CBC reporter, and then Mark Carney, well, I guess he was disgraced because he was Mark Carney's art dealer. And then he went to work for Mike Carney's wife's company, Eurasia, and then he finds himself as an MP, and they had to figure out what he could head up, and I guess it's AI. But now he's warning the federal government won't be able to maintain full control of its data unless the data are stored inside Canada, according to a new white paper.
That's quite a big deal, isn't it? You've got some pretty top secret stuff on there, on those servers. And if they're not in Canada, then...
You should play that clip right now from Kamala Harris. The data, I got to do the hands. The data is stored in the cloud. The cloud. The cloud.
She's, you're bringing back bad memories here. PTSD.
And then in the cloud, and then when you want data, you go to the cloud, and then yeah, Evan, because we haven't invested in any infrastructure here. There you go, Evan. Most of the stuff is through Microsoft and AWS, Amazon. Yeah. Yep. There you go. Let's head to the BC news. We got some shocking news there in BC.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Well, David Eby now found religion. He's not going to run that ad, but let's play this clip here.
For the sector. On the advertisements, we've committed to the federal government that when the time comes to be speaking directly to Americans, we'll do it in partnership with them. We will not be running the ads by ourselves. We'll make sure that we're in line with strategy going forward. And that is a recognition on our part for the sector.
Like they've come to this realization 7 months late that they should act as a team. Like how, like what, like total chaos. Like, I mean, who's running this show? Like they've now realized that they should not just go off all on their own and act like a bunch of, like they must have had a strategy, you'd think. Or are they that bad?
But
Is competence that high?
He hasn't realized that. I think it's much worse than that. It's much worse than them not realizing. They knew very well. And David Eby, if you watch this press conference, he spells it out. He's not subtle in any way. He spells it out. He says the federal government were helping steel and aluminium, like Ontario and Quebec industries. They weren't helping forestry, which is our industry. So what we did was threaten to play an ad. And then they've come now to Vancouver to talk to us about forestry, giving me all kinds of reassurances. So now I'm not going to do the ad without their permission. That's what he said. It was quid pro quo. It was a threat. This is Team Canada. He was threatening the federal government with an ad that would have screwed up negotiations. Because the Americans are obviously well aware of this. And that's, I think, why they picked on Doug Ford, because they know that there's so much division among the provinces and between the provinces and the federal government. So they're just happy to stick the crowbar in and widen the gaps as much as they can. But Eby is happy to play along with that. Like Team Canada, Canadian first David Eby. He's happy to do that and say, no, I will sabotage the US-Canada trade talks unless you come to BC and make some promises to me about forestry. And he was willing, freely admitted that yesterday. Remarkable behavior.
He also fails to mention that David Eby's policies have destroyed the forest industry in BC over the past, the NDP tenure. And I've got lots of interviews on that, including one with him. That's also David Eby there. He makes an admission on this Cowichan decision here that has put title of these Richmond properties in limbo.
Follow up, Richard?
Yeah, for the Premier, property tax expert Paul Sullivan says he's launching what's called a mass property tax appeal to BC assessment. Concerns around the impact the Cowichan lands decision will have on property values in Richmond. What do you say to homeowners in Richmond who are incredibly concerned about their home values due to the decision? And what do you make of this potential appeal around the way that BC assessment, which is operated by the province, values people's homes in that area?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Obviously, this is a moment of huge anxiety for homeowners that are in the claim area, as well as business owners that have land in this area. The court decision, the court assured us that they would make a decision that didn't affect landowners in the claim area, so they didn't have to be served. They didn't have to be told about the case, that it was going ahead in court. Unfortunately, that obviously turned out not to be the case. So one of the pieces of information that we're seeking to gather is from property owners in the area. If they're running into impacts that are related to financing or other related issues, it's helpful for us to know. We're applying to the court for something called a stay, which is a pause and a stop on the decision until the Court of Appeal has a chance to consider that. That's important evidence for the court to be able to hear. I understand why people are anxious. I would be anxious. But I want to reassure people we are going to court. We're bringing forward any information that we have. Currently, to date, we don't have information that banks are reluctant to loan in relation to these properties. It would be helpful for us if that is in fact the case to be able to get that information from homeowners. People still own their properties. You still are able to sell your properties. But the uncertainty, I recognize, is a serious issue, and we need to resolve that as quickly as possible, which is why we've been expediting our work at the Court of Appeal to be able to get there.
I would say those are, again, a lot of half-truths. I've interviewed Jeff Boyce 3 times now, the Aboriginal lawyer that's worked for the government for 31 years, and under 6 different governments, and also now practicing on his own 33 years and focusing on Aboriginal law. Sure, you can sell that property. Pennies on the dollar, maybe? Like, who's buying it? Do you know what I mean? David Eby says you can sell the property. Who would buy it? And can you get a mortgage on it? What does the bank want? What does the bank want from you in exchange for a loan? The title to your property. They hold the title to your property. What title can you offer them right now? Here's a title that may or not be mine. Do you think they're going to accept that?
But it was such a cop-out. It was like Bill Clinton or something, levels of sliminess there, wasn't it? Where where he was saying, how did he phrase it exactly? That we don't yet have any indication that, or something like that. It's like, God's
But he
sake.
also said,
is that all you've got?
This is one of the things when I interviewed Jeff Moyse, they didn't inform the property owners that their property was in question. They weren't even allowed to defend their own properties at that time. David Eby knew, and he said the court assured him that that wasn't going to be the case. So he had some assurance from the court that turned out to be. So David Eby withheld that information from the public and from those homeowners, not even allowing them to protect their own property. And according to Jeff Moyse, they didn't argue extinguishment. And then, so what right? I mean, this is the whole big question for the Crown. So the Crown then it sold that property originally to a private landowner. So then the only recourse really is to sue the government. And I hope the BC government has trillions of dollars in its pocket, because David Eby has made a mess. I mean, he's made a mess of healthcare. Healthcare is just bubbling over. You and I did that interview with Jonathan Kay, like a national journalist here. And he says, they look at what's going on in Canada and think it's a mess, but then you look over at BC and say, what is literally going on? You have a conservative government that's in chaos, which is John Rustad. I don't know how he's still hanging in there. And then you have David Eby living in La La Land. Look, he allowed all this stuff to happen, all these secret negotiations, and he continues to do this. Rustad's asked him to stop all these secret negotiations. Also interviewed Jeff Moyse and talked about the Haida decision. You got to watch that too, because it breaks down that Haida decision and how that decision plays out with all these other decisions. And BC, and I believe it's New Brunswick, have the biggest problem in Canada when it comes to title claims. And
Nova Scotia, I think, isn't it?
Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, one of those two. And BC, I think, is over 100% of the, because of overlapping claims. Like even this Cowichan decision, there's 3 First Nations that have claim on these same properties here. And that's still going to court, because they asked for 1,800 acres. They got 800 awarded, and there's still the other 1,000 are up for claim there. And I just saw a tweet that some other First Nations is going after more land. So David Eby has opened a hornet's nest there, not arguing extinguishment, and the legitimacy of the Crown to award property. Like, I mean, and I interviewed the finance minister, Brenda Bailey, recently as well, and I said, we talk about certainty and investment. What about this? And she's like, oh, we're definitely going to appeal this. David Eby just admitted you knew about this, and you allowed it to go without the landowners having any say in this property, because you said you were assured by the courts. I mean, this should be the biggest story going right now for BC. Because right now, Rob Shaw's reporting, a journalist here in British Columbia, Richmond owners unite to fight taxes on land caught. Because, again, the city of Richmond still charging taxes on land, apparently not theirs. And some bad news here. Needles found in Halloween candy given to kids in 2 BC cities. You look at this injection. This looks like a coffee crisp bar.
I think that's a sewing needle, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not even worth having your kids go out for Halloween. Just to have each bedroom dress it up, and I mean, kids don't need anyway.
It's such a horrible violation, this, though, isn't it? Because it's like
violation of trust.
It undermines the openness of society and like the implicit trust that you have in your neighbors. It undermines that, something very precious and very hard to obtain and build. But it happens every year. I can't remember the last year that there wasn't this kind of story.
So one of the big things for capital, and capital can move around now, because like even when you have a guy like Trump saying, hey, bring $1 billion to the United States, I'll fast track you, I'll do everything I can. Capital goes where it's best respected, and it's not respected here in Canada right now. It's not being respected, and Mark Carney proves that himself. I mean, I don't care what you say, Lightning Rod. Mark Carney proves that himself. Capital's not respected here in Canada. Mark Carney moved Brookfield to the United States, and he said why? Why did he say? He said because better access to funding there. And then Mark Carney's company, Brookfield, just did a major deal, a bigger deal than Canada's done since he's been in power. $80 million deal, along with another Canadian company, Cameco, to do 8 nuclear reactors in the United States. I don't know. International media. We got
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
It looks like your friends at the BBC are in trouble for cooking the video clips. Looks like this is going to be a bit of a poop storm for BBC and likely a lawsuit because Donald Trump likely has lawyers drafting. I'm surprised it took this long to come out, and how did it shake out of the things? But it looks like the BBC took two clips like an hour apart and kind of made one that made Mr. Trump look like he incited an insurrection. Let's play this little clip here.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
That's such a bad side by side, isn't it? It couldn't be worse, because it's Trump being like his best sort of camp impression, right? He's like, "We're gonna cheer on," and they made it seem like so evil and dark and ominous, didn't they? That's something called stitching, by the way. And they made it look like it was serious journalistic malpractice, and I can tell you.
Continuous.
When you get the journalism qualifications in England, you have to pass all kinds of exams to become a journalist. They warn you very strongly against that. And if you stitched in one of the many exams, if you stitched quotes together, you would immediately fail. You would just get a complete zero.
Well, this one is even
here's
worse.
the BBC just doing it when the stakes are pretty damn high.
But
here's the BBC doing it.
This one is even worse because they made it look like it was contiguous. They made it look like that speech was one speech. It's not like you put a couple of clips together and different answers. It's really bad. Let's play this here.
No, they merged it, yeah.
So let's play this from Great Britain News. It looks like they took some good time because you don't even notice it really in the first clip that it's two different things, do you?
No.
Let's play this here from your friends at GB News.
Biggest story in town. It turns out American President Donald Trump was onto something.
Where are you from? BBC. Okay. Here's another beauty.
It's a good line. Impartial, free and fair.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that criticism of the BBC and John Sopel, who was talking to there, apparently was well-founded because the so-called impartial and accurate Public Service broadcaster is nothing but.
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President...
Because tonight the BBC is facing serious questions over its credibility after the Daily Telegraph exposed a panorama segment that heavily doctored a speech by the American president in 2021.
That's good. You can go find that whole clip there.
It's very bad for the BBC. I mean, they just within recent memory, only a few months ago, they were called out for producing a documentary narrated by, I believe, a son of a Hamas operative, and they didn't mention that in the documentary. They also put a documentary out where somebody in Gaza, some Palestinian in Gaza, said, "Oh yeah, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it was like, it was the Jews did it." That's what he said in Arabic, and the BBC mistranslated it intentionally to, it was the Israelis, those Israeli chaps over there. It's just like, they make these mistakes very often. And I will just add one last thing there. The irony of that being John Sopel, the guy that stood up and was mocked by Donald Trump, pretending it to be unbiased and all the rest of it. He is now a very excitable left-wing or left-liberal activist. He's not at the BBC anymore. He's now doing his own programs where he reveals to the world what his politics are, and they're, who would have guessed it, left-liberal.
So this is what Lightning Rod really highlights. So even when there's a clear point when this is like really bad what they did here at the BBC, the defense is, well, Trump's a bad person. That doesn't take away from what the BBC did, and that's wrong. They have massive voice. They have massive voice and massive influence, and to doctor that like that, I mean, they're obviously going to get sued, but they should also, like, somebody needs to get fired, and then that goes right to the top, like whoever ordered that, and because I mean that is This is how you get people like this that are all got TDS because they believe this stuff to be true. And then they make excuses for it, even if they find out that it was wrong. Again, here, Mr. Trump lies. That has nothing to do whether Trump lies or not. This is the BBC that is supposedly one of the best news organizations in the world. There is no excuse for it. Zero. Nada. None.
Nobody will be fired either. They never do that at the BBC. I mean, they have a complaint process at the BBC that I've used in a futile way and for comedy reasons only at this point. And I've pointed things out where they've just made like glaring errors or just said really stupid, insulting things that they should never have said. And they just ignore it all the time. They don't care. And there are people out there like Peter Hitchens, who's a journalist in England. He always complains to the BBC, quite amusingly, and he's never given satisfaction. They never right the wrongs.
I think they may have stepped into it this time, though. This one is likely not going to go over well. Boris Johnson right there coming out and saying something as well. Or your old friend Boris.
Well, his reputation is, if it's even possible, his reputation is lower than the BBC's. So, I mean, he might as well just shut up and go away.
And then this is kind of where we're going to have a little bit of fun here because we're getting to the end here. Why not have a little bit of fun? Because it's a long show. Because the budget, we're waiting for the budget. I have Renee Merrifield at noon again with Beyond the Bell. I'm sure she's going to have lots to say about this budget coming down, former MLA. And here's Kamala Harris making some claims. Let's listen to what Kamala Harris says because she's also put stuff in the clouds. Let's listen to what she has to say here.
And then, of course, being vice president and doing the work of vice president of the United States, I've met with over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. I've negotiated very important deals and issues on behalf of the American people.
I like it when people have nothing to say, but they can say the same thing over and over and over again, but add so many words, but not say anything. I've met with people, many people from all kinds of people, and the people of the world in the people. And then some of these people were actually people. Like what?
She's like some braggart's LinkedIn page or a LinkedIn post that hasn't been run through ChatGPT yet. Still, it hasn't actually been fixed yet. And it's just like, that's what she is. Talk about how and I met more than 150 world leaders. It's just like,
kind of went to one dinner.
She's an embarrassment.
That many people there. But I remember the question, have you been to the border? Well,
I've been to Africa. She said something like that, didn't she?
No, I've been to South America or something. But have you been to the border? Have you been to the border? Why do you keep asking these ridiculous questions? But have you been to the border? No. Why would you say that? Listen to this. You want to talk about the military. Check this out. Yeah, well, do I need the music? This is a drone. They call it the Bat. X-Bat.
Yeah, I think it was in the Christopher Nolan Batman films, wasn't it?
Supposedly, it's next-gen fighter jet. Flies itself, takes off like a helicopter, doesn't need a runway. Fly 2,000 miles, reach 50,000 feet, pack missiles. Cost just
How can you make a Top Gun film about that? Just some guy sat at a computer making sure that everything's in order.
Meanwhile, in Canada, can I get my hands here somewhere? Hand ringing, F-35, 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 F-35. Should we buy the F-35? Stephen Harper ordered the F-35s. Justin Trudeau said, we're never going to buy that F-35. It's too expensive. 2023, what was that, like 7 years later? Justin Trudeau says, we're going to buy the F-35. Then Justin Trudeau gets the boot. Nah, maybe not. Then recently, they're still hand-wringing over the F-35. Now they're considering Saab, maybe.
By the time Kanye was asked just a couple of days ago, to conclude the Asia thing. It was one of the questions, and it was more of that, as you said. It was more. So, that's Mr. Burns, isn't it?
One of the things here, you're going to get tired of us being right, Lightning Rod. You're going to get so tired of us being right. We're going to be right so many times, you're going to get tired of us being right. You're going to say, I can't take you being right so many times. And in the next few days, all you're going to hear and is talking about climate change again as our people head to COP30 there. But we'll kick it off a little bit here with UN Chief Antonio Guterres here, saying you need to cough up more money.
Governments must arrive at the upcoming COP30 meeting in Brazil with concrete plans to slash their own emissions over the next decade, while also delivering climate justice to those on the front lines of a crisis they did little to cause. Just look at Jamaica. The clean energy revolution means it is possible to cut emissions while growing economies. But developing countries still lack the finance and technologies needed to support their transitions. In Brazil, countries must agree on a credible plan to mobilize $1.6 trillion annually in climate finance by 2035 for developing countries. And developed countries must honor their commitments to double finance for adaptation to at least $40 billion this year. And the loss and damage fund needs to be capitalized with significant contributions.
He forgot the buzzword catalyze. We got to get that word catalyze in there. Because I can assure you that Canada will be ponying up, and the United States will be with the big goose egg. And I don't know why they're still using US dollars. Why doesn't Antonio use Venezuelan dollars? Because maybe we can give him that many Venezuelan dollars.
But I just, I hate to be lowest common denominator here and be so crass. But this bloke's a socialist, obviously. He was the Socialist Party leader and prime minister in Portugal. Portugal, a very, very small country. Obviously, it doesn't really have much of an effect on the world. And now he's in charge of the UN, and he's spending all this money, trillions of dollars, and he's telling people what to do. And the social that is obviously very commonly heard as an attack against socialists, isn't it? That they want to spend other people's money. But I also just find it so interesting that he injects a kind of Marxism. It's kind of climate Marxism, isn't it? Because it's this idea that loads of these countries did nothing to cause this crisis. It's not even their fault. It's really the fault of Britain and countries like that, like the countries that created the Industrial Revolution. I just find that it's just so tedious, isn't it, to see that divide and rule and that kind of attempt at injecting Marxist analysis into this question. It's just, surely people are sick of this at this point.
Maybe Antonio should try to extort some money out of President Xi, and then we'd say, whatever Xi gives you, we'll match it. See how much President Xi...
But then he can make that argument, though. He can inject that kind of Marxist thinking and say, China only industrialized very relatively recently, so they're fine, even though they contribute the most emissions now. This is the kind of thinking that can be applied. And when people use that style of thought, that sort of political tool, or whatever you want to call it, you can tell immediately that they don't actually really care about climate change. Because if they really believe what they said and they really cared about it, then it would be emissions down by any means possible. And that would mean starting with China and not looking at the 19th century and trying to balance out emissions over hundreds of years.
Look at this. The press didn't dare ask Mark Carney a question, but they do have a question here for... Let's listen.
Morning, Minister. Can you tell us about your trip to COP and what you'll be up to at COP next week?
I'm going to be talking to other environment ministers from around the world about how we continue to fight climate change, and I'm looking forward to it.
The other question I have for you is the cutting of the tree program, $2 billion down to $1 billion. Does a billion trees make a difference? Is it going to save money to put into other programs?
I think we're going to have to look at the budget, but I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff in this budget.
But your government has leaked it to the CBC. You publish it, so, you know.
She's pretty cool, isn't she? She's a very smooth operator.
But hey, check it out. We got another clip here to play for you here, because, you know, like, they're all going to start arriving soon.
What is the best way to get to a climate change conference? A private jet can save you hours of waiting in line and traveling at substandard airline speeds. There is nothing more relaxing than being the only person on the entire plane. So you can arrive rested and ready to explain to the little people how their minivans and gas stoves are ruining the earth.
That's good.
I almost choked on myself there.
Almost choked on the hypocrisy, didn't you?
Well, and Elon Musk, for the people that love Elon Musk, oh, that's me. David Sachs says the biggest risk of AIs was described by James Cameron, not described by James Cameron in Terminator, but by George Orwell, the favorite of yours, in 1984. Let's listen to what he has to say. And we saw evidence of this already. Let's play this clip here.
I almost feel like the term woke AI is insufficient to explain what's going on because it somehow trivializes it. I mean, what we're really talking about is Orwellian AI. You know, we're talking about AI that that lies to you, that distorts an answer, that rewrites history in real time to serve a current political agenda of the people who are in power. I mean, it's very Orwellian. And we were definitely on that path before President Trump's election. It was part of the Biden EO. We saw it happen, you know, in the release of that first Gemini model. That was not an accident. That, you know, that those distorted outputs came from somewhere. To me, this is the biggest risk of AI. Actually, it was not described by James Cameron. It was described by George Orwell. You know, it's in my view, it's not the Terminator. It's 1984. That you know, that as AI eats the internet and becomes the main way that we interact and get our information online, that it'll be used by the people in power to control the information we receive, that it'll contain an ideological bias, that essentially it'll censor us. All of that trust and safety apparatus that was created for social media will be ported over to this new world of AI. And then
that's good. You get the idea, hey? But we saw the first renditions from Gemini. I remember when it was kind of distorting history and everything. It was just like, and I was just like, I'm not used to that, right? And that was one of the reasons that Elon Musk started X, and now he's actually started Grokpedia as well, because Wikipedia, even one of the founders of Wikipedia said that it's distorted and it's gone woke and that he doesn't want anything to do with it. And he's the one encouraging Musk to start Grokpedia.
Yeah. We're seeing that all the time. We're almost living in a kind of version of that now, aren't we? And definitely the election of Trump seems to have changed things. The election of Trump and also Elon Musk buying one of the main sort of tools in the apparatus by buying Twitter and freeing it from its moderation regime. But I mean, yeah, there are many examples. Like even in Canada, again, I refer people back to that conversation that we had with Jonathan Kay when we were talking about the residential school situation. Well, not the residential schools per se, but that specifically that ground radar search, and how that was just willfully manipulated by the political class, and lies were told about it relentlessly. And anybody that just sort of put their hands on them were like Jonathan Kay, and just said, but you know, shouldn't there be bodies there? Where's the evidence? Like people like that were persecuted as heretics. And he didn't really go into it when we were interviewing him, but he suffered massively. You know, he was really chased around and hounded and persecuted. So in a sense, we kind of already arrived there, but I guess the fight is on.
Diplo not letting this go. DJ Diplo, I never heard of him before, but here you go, DJ Diplo, the one that got away. He made that claim the other day that he was dating Trudeau and Katy Perry. Their Bermuda Triangle, I guess. After the budget, what drops at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
4 p.m. Ottawa time.
And I believe that some of the boomers are going to be making this phone call after the budget drops when they realize that the PBO's office, when he said shocking, stupefying, unsustainable, and that we're looking into the abyss that he might be encouraged to make this call. Maybe Lightning Rod will make this call. Let's hear what he has to say when he makes the call.
Yeah, listen. We fucked up.
That's good.
I'm going to have to watch that film. I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm going to have to watch it again now. You keep playing that video.
Do you think Lightning Rod's going to make that call? Is he actually going to own up to it?
Is he in the... I'm not sure he's ever expressed contrition, or he's ever kind of said I was wrong, even when he's been proven wrong.
You know what? It'll be a good day when we finally get Lightning Rod to see if he takes off those rose-colored glasses and actually looks at the world with a common sense perspective, and he finally says, okay, Jim and Iain, you were right. I'm sorry.
I'm coming on the show, Jim.
We'll wait for it. Anyway, have a great day and enjoy it. I'm back at noon with Renee Merrifield, former MLA. We're going to talk about the budget, I'm sure. And that budget, I'm sure pieces of it will start leaking out here. And get ready for the words. Every time you hear the words carbon capture, bang a bell, and then maybe an angel will get its wings.
And catalyze. Don't forget.
I mean, count the words catalyze, carbon capture, and how it is the budget for the future generation. There you go. Anyway, till tomorrow. We're back tomorrow. We appreciate all of you, even Lightning Rod. It's great. And help share the message. Help us get it out there, Lightning Rod. Help people see and use a little bit of common sense and demand better. All right, thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.